Hello, world champions. I'm John Ward, and this is Breaking News with John Ward Breaking News. Breaking news! A terrifying and little-known story that began all the way back in 2014 is finally beginning to enter the public consciousness. Have you heard of this air traffic control scandal? I hadn't, and now I know why. But before we jump to 2024, let's go back to where it all started, roughly a decade ago, and keep in mind the implication of how long this has been going on.
Trouble in the skies. Fox Business's 6-month investigation uncovering disturbing new hiring practices at the FAA, gaining national attention on Capitol Hill today. Just hours ago, I spoke with Republican Congressman Randy Hultgren. He sits on the Committee on Science, Space, and Technology and is co-sponsoring the Air Traffic Controllers Hiring Act of 2015. He says the FAA is jeopardizing flyer safety.
Well, very concerned what is happening, and we've seen a real change in the last 18 months of how the FAA is hiring air traffic controllers. And with the latest discovery that's just come out recently, some huge questions that have to be answered. We have to have the FAA come before Congress to answer these questions of cheating that is going on with getting answers to certain groups of people to a biographical questionnaire that has really become the gatekeeper of someone becoming an air traffic controller.
What's he talking about? You will not believe it, and it's best summarized by a liberal, former Pete Buttigieg fan. Quote, "A scandal at the FAA has been moving on a slow burn through the courts for a decade, culminating in the class action lawsuit currently known as Brigida vs. Pete Buttigieg, brought by a class who spent years and thousands of dollars in coursework to become air traffic controllers, only to be dismissed by a pass-fail biographical questionnaire with a greater than 90% fail rate, implemented without warning after many of them had already taken and passed a skill assessment. The questionnaire awarded points for factors like lowest grade in high school in science, something explicitly admitted by the FAA in a motion to deny class certification. Mainstream outlets have given it sparse coverage for reasons that will become clear shortly. Right-wing sources paid attention initially, but few ran follow-ups or took a close look at the court filings. So, what exactly is going on? How did all of this happen? Historically, the pipeline into air traffic control has followed a few paths. Military veterans, graduates of the Air Traffic Collegiate Training Initiative, AT-CTI program, and the general public. Whichever route they came from, each candidate would be required to take and pass the 8-hour AT-SAT cognitive test to begin serious training. This test was validated as being effective as recently as 2013. Said more simply, for the entire history of air traffic controllers, there has been a single competency test, the AT-SAT, that dictated whether or not a candidate was qualified. Then in the early 2000s, a cartoon villain appeared, the National Black Coalition of Federal Aviation Employees, the NBC, FAE. The quote-unquote Black Coalition spent the better part of a decade constructing a false front, culminating in a group calling themselves Team 7. Ignore this. The villain here is quite simply and undeniably the Black Coalition. Quote, in 2012, Team 7, aka Black Coalition members, met with the Secretary of the Department of Transportation, the FAA Administrator, and senior FAA leaders to discuss diversity, after which the FAA commissioned a barrier analysis with a number of recommendations. Central to this, the cognitive test posed a barrier for black candidates, so they recommended using a biographical test first to maximize diversity, eliminating the vast majority of candidates prior to any cognitive test. Their argument was that the AT-SAT was racist because black candidates were failing at wildly higher rates than every other race, whites, Asians, Indians, Hispanics, doing just fine. So therefore, quote, less weight should be given to the AT-SAT, on top of which that 70% pass score is just too dang high for someone responsible for, commercial airplanes not crashing and killing hundreds of people. We'd probably be just fine with a solid 50 because who doesn't like turning something that worked fine 70 years ago into a coin toss at 35,000 feet? So what does this new test look like?
I want you to listen. This is the biographical, this is the personality test. The people who want to be air traffic controllers, these are the kinds of things they have to talk about. Listen to this.
Let me read some of the questions from that test. What has been the major cause of your failures?
A question that everyone seems to love is question number 21, in which they ask,
the number of different high school sports I participated in was,
and these are multiple choice questions.
Why does it matter if they played sports in high school?
I can't imagine how it would, and there has to be another purpose here.
There is.
And then why would certain people be giving answers to certain groups of people to make sure that they pass it where others can't? We've talked to so many people who have gone through education, have spent money, have had training, or even served in our military, and have proven themselves in very difficult circumstances to be trustworthy in these important roles, and yet have been excluded from serving because of this biographical questionnaire that is so random and has nothing to do with the work that would be required of them as an air traffic controller.
Quote, in 2014, the FAA rolled out the new biographical questionnaire in line with the barrier analysis recommendation designed so that 90% or more of applicants would fail. The questionnaire was not monitored and people could take it at home. Questions asked prospective air traffic controllers how many sports they played in high school, or how long they'd been unemployed recently, whether they were more eager or considerate, and 70-some other questions. Graduates of the CTI program, like everyone else who had to pass this, or they would be disqualified for further consideration. This came alongside other changes deprioritizing CTI graduates.
Fox Business has received a written response from the FAA, and I want to give part of that to you now. And this is about that personality test, which I find so confounding. We asked them why they give that test. They said to increase objectivity and select those applicants with the highest probability of success in the FAA's rigorous air traffic controller training process. Does that make sense to you?
It makes no sense to me. There's clearly other reasons that they have behind that they've got to answer.
Get ready to be angry. Quote, concurrent to all of this, Black Coalition members were hard at work. In particular, one Shelton Snow, an FAA employee and then president of the Black Coalition's Washington Suburban chapter, provided Black Coalition members with buzzwords in January 2014 that would automatically push their resumes to the tops of HR files. A 2013 Black Coalition meeting advised members to, quote, please include on resumes if you are a Black Coalition member. Can you see the strategy? Emphasizing they were only concerned with the employment of African Americans, women, and other minorities. Can you see the strategy? Quote, very important. If you are a Black Coalition member, put it on your resume. This is in case we have one of our own on the board. We've always had one, and they share our enthusiasm. Yeah, I can see it.
I've even heard of current, very successful air traffic controllers trying to pass this bio questionnaire and not being able to do it. So there's another purpose here. And then for them, if that's truly what they're trying to do, why is someone on the inside cheating or allowing someone else to cheat, help certain groups be able to pass this when others don't get that help? That's not right. That's not what this nation is all about. And ultimately, it's not safe.
No, it's not. Of course, let's not get ahead of ourselves. This story is so outrageous that it almost can't be true. But beyond that, and great cause for celebration, is the soothing logic that if this blacks-only cheating scandal was truly widespread, and if these black candidates were truly underqualified, we would have seen by now the repercussions of an airline industry run by incompetent morons.
All of my sexual fantasies involve handcuffs.
Holy fucking shit, this fucking timeline.
This is a developing story, more on the way. That's it for today. I'm John Ward, and this has been Breaking News with John Ward Breaking News. Until next time, remember, don't fly on airplanes!
Fucking timeline is all over, it's over. World's biggest Alex Joner.
Not only are people being chosen in a whimsical way, really, but also that there's cheating going on. Some people get the answers to this biographical test ahead of time. Congressman, we look forward to continuing to cover this story. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you. No, this is important. Thank you very, very much.
Fucking timeline is all over, it's over. World's biggest Alex Joner.
All of my sexual fantasies involve handcuffs.
Holy fucking shit, this fucking timeline is lit. All over, it's over. World's biggest Alex Joner.